Okay, so we're going to get into the mix of things. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from wherever you're watching us from any part of the world. My name is Fola Alade, and you're welcome to another session of the Mediation Hot Seat with Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi, who I fondly call my Egmont. But those of us in the mediation space, we call him RevDoc. So, RevDoc, you're most welcome to this Mediation Hot Seat.
Thank you, Fola. Awesome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. As is the usual practice here, while we wait for people to tune in, this is not a training session. This is what we do here is to basically connect with the essence of mediators, to know why they do what they do, and discuss contemporary issues surrounding mediation. So I would always ask questions at the speed of light, based on the responses I get from our guests. So if at any point in time you want to join in the conversation, it's one of two things. You can kindly do that by raising your virtual hand or dropping a comment in the section. My associate and senior associate, Mr. Dari Aborowa, will be on hand to take the questions. So as is the usual practice, we're going to start off with the bio of our guest for today. So his name is Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi. He is the principal partner, Berean Associates, Nigeria, and helps people and organizations to successfully navigate conflicts through negotiation, mediation, arbitration, conflict coaching, and avoidance training. He is a certified negotiator, mediator, mediation advocate, and arbitrator. He is a certified cognitive behavioral and rational emotive behavioral practitioner. Wow, that's a mouthful. I'll take it again. He's a certified cognitive behavioral and rational emotive behavioral practitioner. Adeyemi is an experienced ADR consultant with extensive numbers of disputes resolved in core areas of family, banking, real estate, construction, corporate and commercial matters as specialty. He serves on the panel of neutrals of the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse, Federal High Court ADR Center, the Lagos Court of Arbitration, and panels of several private and domestic institutions. He is a member of SCMA. He is also the chairman YMG Mentorship Committee and chairman Schemes Committee of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK, he facilitated and launched of the Micro Small Enterprises Scheme with the LCA. Wow, it's so much. He's also a fellow of the Society of Advanced Legal Societies, to mention a few. I welcome on board Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi. Thank you so very much for coming in, sir.
Thank you for that. Awesome to be here.
Yes. So, Doc, let's start with the journey, which I believe is as important as a destination. Oh, and I also forgot to add that Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi is also a reverend. So, Doc, yeah, it's been done. So, yeah. So, can you please tell us about the journey? How did you find out about mediation, and why did you eventually choose mediation as an area of specialization? Thank you.
All right, then. I think I've basically been mainly, like most people would say, a peacemaker by intuition. Right from primary school, there's always teacher-student issues, teacher issues. If I remember, at about age of 7, I settled an issue between my vice principal and my principal, who had a big issue on, I think, we're choosing prefect or something at that time. So I think it's something that's always been natural with me, just listening to parties, helping them to identify the issues, and then move forward with it. So that's really what mediation has been for me. And then in going through life, with the various experience that I've gathered, and I always tell people, mediation is a second career. You cannot finish from secondary school and say you want to go to study mediation in university or something. That would be ridiculous. It's a second career. So I haven't had various experiences in life. I just thought it's settling down in dispute resolution for me was a natural thing to do.
Interesting, RevDoc. So, RevDoc, now, in the last 4, 5, 6 months, we've had conversations, because I'm just going to hit the ground running, because we have so much to discuss today. We've spoken about growth of mediation and the receptive nature of why lawyers are antagonistic on the adoption of mediation, among so many other things. So, in your own opinion, why do you think mediation is not at par with other arms of dispute resolution? First of all, in Africa, then yeah, in Africa as a whole, they now narrow it down to Nigeria.
Okay, I think I already redefined that question as why institutional mediation is not at par with other forward-looking societies, because we
I'm sorry,
mediate every day.
yeah,
We
what's
mediate.
institutional mediation? Okay.
That is a formalized system whereby you say these are the disputants, these are the counsel, and here the mediator. But otherwise, we settle quarrel with our friends, with our neighbors. We settle quarrel at parties, in the bars, and in traffic. We mediate 24/7, all of us. Mothers mediate their children, neighbors mediate their neighbors, couples. We all mediate. But in terms of formal mediation, which is what I think you mean, both private and public, my own submission really is that in other climes where mediation is accelerating in terms of being adaptable to the justice system and being taking its place as the queen of dispute resolution, it's being driven by the government. That's the truth. From Singapore to Europe to America, there's nowhere where private initiatives are driving the adoption of mediation or ADR. It is funded heavily by the government. Both the institutions, both the framework, both the legislation, both the support of the courts and the judiciary, it's driven by the government. So come back home to Nigeria, it's like, what's the noise about? Who are these people? Who is Fola? Who are these people from LMDC? It's sort of like some irritants. So from the NBA has, I think, over 100,000 lawyers on their roll. I'm not sure that you have more than, I would say, 500 trained as mediators, even if you won't get that number. So it just shows you that it has to be policy driven. That's the way. That's the only way it can be done. It will take years. By the time we eventually catch up, I wonder what the world will be doing next. Because we're already moving on to dispute resolution and machine learning and artificial intelligence. So I'm sure by the time we eventually catch up, mediation will be out of fashion. It really has to be, I think it's really the lack of the government support, really, for me. That's where it lies.
Okay, so Doc, you said something about when I asked you the question, you phrased it as institutional mediation. So, do you see mediation as a way of life? Let me first of all start off with that level.
Yes. That's right. I think I think there's the regular mediation and there's the institutional mediation. I trained a group of mediators last week. I think about 20 of them, and they graduated last week. And all of them at their graduation were asked to say something. And each of them said, mediation has changed me. I'm now more quiet. I'm now more accommodating. I now listen to both sides. It's like a new me. My wife is asking me, what happened to you? My husband is asking me, what training did you just go for? In fact, some of them said, while they were in class, online learning, that people around them will sit down and also be taking notes and learning from what they were learning from. So mediation is a way of life. It's from all the skills, active listening, Socratic questioning. I like the way Dale Carnegie puts it. They are life skills, they are interpersonal skills. They improve your quotient, your social quotient. It makes you a human being. It makes people around you happy. It helps you to show empathy to your community and your society. So mediation is a way of life. You can't be a mediator like a doctor. In other words, you close from work and you're no more a doctor. No, you're always a mediator. Even in your sleep, if people are fighting your sleep, you will settle them. I don't think you ever stop being a mediator.
So that's the thing. And why I ask this question is that the fact that you actually differentiated between the regular mediation and your words, institutional mediation, that difference, don't you think is a problem? Because when people have to see mediation as a formalized structure and not as a way of life or as what we all do one way or the other, don't you think that is the reason why the growth of mediation is being hampered? Because if at the end of the day I'm having a conversation with someone and I'm telling the person that mediation is a way of life, is this and that, then somebody else is saying that. But if it is a way of life, when I have an issue with someone, do I always tell the person to put it into writing? Do I always tell the person I need a settlement agreement? Don't you think that dichotomy is even a problem on its own?
Well, it's not a, it's not, it's, I won't say the problem. I think it's better to clarify it. For instance, I know that, you have peer mediation, which is really for the young people in secondary school. You have community mediation, which is where we have conflicts, post-conflict, communal clashes, mediation, where the community themselves take ownership. So yes, there are varied levels to mediation. There's the sports mediation, there's the family, there's the workplace, there's the religious institutions mediation, there's even the political mediation, intra-political parties. So when I say institutional now, I'm looking at it more in terms of earning a fee and being able to enforce, and then being operated under a framework. Mediation is largely unregulated, it's self-regulating, and parties can appoint anybody as their mediator, but at the end of the day, whatever terms of settlement are drawn up need to be enforced or need to be documented. And then that's why I think the institutions come in. And also, when you have the umbrella of an institution, they're able to better anchor and manage these processes as opposed to just private individuals doing them piecemeal. So while we are all mediators, everybody's a mediator. Everybody should be a mediator. But at the end of the day, there should also be the organized mediation, and I think they both should run together. They're not opposed to each other. They should run together.
Okay then. So true confession, RevDoc. I cannot have a RevDoc on my hot seat and be asking him conventional questions. So RevDoc, I have some specially prepared questions for you, and I'm going to first of all start off now. Now, this is putting you on the hot seat.
I can plead the second amendment. Not the self-incriminate. So.
And now I'm putting you on the hot seat, not as a mediator, but as a trainer of mediation. And I've had cause to attend quite a number of trainings, and I struggle with the way trainers teach mediation. They teach mediation in abstraction. I don't know what they don't. You see, most times when I bring people on board to ask them to interview them, they might just say one word, and that word might be the theme of the training, like what I'm doing right now about mediation being a way of life and institutional mediation. So when you say mediation is a way of life, and trainers and you say it's something we do every day, and yet when they teach mediation, they are teaching mediation from a level of abstraction where people can't even relate with the practical aspect of mediation in their day-to-day lives. Don't you see that as a problem? I've heard you teach, and I know you are very direct, you're straightforward and all of that, but it's not like that with other trainers. So people find it difficult to grasp the concept of mediation. So it's a feedback in front of the comments. I would like to have your reaction on that.
Yes, I do agree with you, Fola. I do train mediation internationally. I'm accredited as a trainer for the Chartered Arbitrators UK, IMI, IM Campus, and a few other foreign bodies. And I find that all these bodies are not interested in certificates. I remember very well when I did the trainer course of the CIAB, it was a 40 to 50 hour training. And when we were done, we were asking for a certificate, and they said, what for? It was a skill-based learning. You don't get anything. So, even a paper for coming, all the time we spent, almost 6 weeks, they said nothing. It's for you to go out and practice it. And that's really what the foreign bodies look at. So in their own mind, in a 40-hour basic mediation training, which is in our model here in Western in Nigeria and a bit of the West, it should be at least 20 to 30 hours of role plays and just little theory. In Germany, it's 200 hours. And in some other clients, it's 120 hours. In some other clients, it's 140 hours, out of which about 80% is practical. So there's no way you're going to have these assessments, these role plays, that doesn't stimulate your creative thinking, doesn't stimulate your not being narrow-minded, that doesn't change you as a person, that doesn't change your relationships. So yes, I do agree with you that I feel very sore when I see mediation being taught as if you are teaching people mathematics. It's not part of my background. You teach people for 40 hours in class. What is mediation? What is ADR? What is conflict analysis and conflict tree? And just go
what now? What is all this exactly?
Zopa, and then you spend that 40 hours doing that, and then they go and see the mediators. I think that's just a huge joke. That's a huge joke, you know. So yes, it is a problem. Because what happens is that they come out of the place and they say they are mediators, and then they don't even know. Most of them end up being evaluative. They can't, because the goal style of mediation, of course, is facilitative mediation. They can't even handle it. And then now we're talking of transformative mediation. They can't even empower the parties to take a decision. So especially those who have come in, maybe not with altruistic motives, they just want to get the certification and then add it to one of the things they do to make a living. You find out that they really harm the process. I've seen people come to mediation and tell me that it was a total waste of time. And I found out it was not about the mediation, it was about how it was done. About how it was done. So yes, I do agree with you that we need to focus on our training, standardize it, make sure that
make it relatable.
Yes, make it a skill. I mean, it's like when you go to your mechanic to fix your car. I'm sorry for that, or your plumber, or your electrician. I'm sure you've had some over the years. You've never asked for a certificate before or their qualification, whether it's fitting and guild, whether it's from UI. Just ready to go to a mechanic, if a good Mercedes-Benz mechanic, and you give him your job. So that's the way it has to be. And in foreign clients, I've dealt with different mediators from different jurisdictions. It's all about their track record, their hours, their logbook, and what they've done. It's never about whether they did FIDA accredited mediator or online mediator, all these funny titles that we just like to throw around. Nobody cares about that. I'm a mediator, and I'm simply mediating. It's something I do. So I'm surprised when you come to this place, it's about title, and again, they can't defend it.
RevDoc for the money. You see, on a lighter note, one of the reasons why I like RevDoc, you see, I'm RevDoc's Abu. I share in his unconventional approach to the business and practice of mediation. You see, his approach is not the textbook approach to mediation. He speaks practical. So, RevDoc, I want to lay a premise for my next question by asking one question. Now, in very simple terms, for the benefit of those that are here that don't understand what evaluative and facilitative mediation is, can you please explain and tell us what style you use? Because I've seen you in action before.
Okay, so evaluative mediation simply means that you look at the strength of the case of the parties. You show the strengths, the weaknesses. You help them to take a decision. It's basically it came out from the doorsteps of the pre-trial conference of the judges in chambers. So the judge doesn't say, look, don't waste my time here. You're the claimant, you're the disputant. Let me see your pleadings. Hey, you better go and talk about this. You guys should meet halfway, and basically accelerates the process. It's not very tidy, So it's more connected to the court formal areas, almost like conciliation. But when you talk of facilitative mediation, it's beautiful. From the opening statements, what's your name? How are you doing? What are you going through? To settling the issues. Then you distill the issues. Then you explore, you probe from the position to their interest, to their real needs. So somebody has said, my issue here today is that my tenant has refused to pay me. But when you get down deep there, it's like, look, the guy is molesting my daughter, but I can't put that in the court papers. So you get to that bottom, and then you bring the parties to negotiate a settlement without suggesting anything. That holding back for me is just amazing. You just let them talk to one another. They talk to one another. They explore solutions. You go caucus or you do plenary anyhow you want, but eventually they create their own solutions and they put them to paper, and then they go out. And in 8 out of 10 of those cases, you don't need an enforcement. You don't need an enforcement. It's beautiful. It's like a new relationship is born, and out they go. So the hallmark of mediation is really party autonomy. The parties own the process, they drive it, and they create their solutions. Now, evaluative is quite, it's quite intrusive. It's like you're holding their hands and showing them a settlement and saying, this is what you should do, because if you don't do it, these are your rights, these are your weaknesses, these are your strengths. And then you also have the new one, which is the transformative, which is where you empower the parties that even post-settlement, they don't need a mediator the next time. They can mediate themselves. They can negotiate the deal. They can redraft the contract. And that's really where mediation is going now. So an HR manager who comes to mediation with the company counsel to represent the company in mediation with maybe some staff will be made redundant, having gone through a transformative mediation process, should go back to the firm and now become a mediator himself. Now apply what he has learned in that process to dealing with the other workers in the firm, and now avoid bringing another third party neutral to solve their issues. So that's the empowerment of transformative mediation. So I practice, of course, facilitative because it's gold standard. But sometimes you have people wanting the evaluative, especially in private mediation, wanting something evaluative. Say, look, just tell us the facts.
Exactly.
We know who is viable. We just want to know who should pay who. Just help us close the deal. We've negotiated up to a stage.
Exactly.
Mediation is assisted negotiation. So they don't want to go through all the story. They don't want to just help us know how do we draft terms. Chief counsel told me, look, me and another counsel have been having issues drafting terms. Our parties have settled. And I just come in there, and in 1 hour, we look at things together, give and take, and we'll frame something nice that both parties like, and we'll move out. And so it's really a bouquet. I'm told that there are about 100 mediation styles. I'm yet to study that, but I think there's just a lot of hybrid of different types.
But don't you think that each case has its own peculiar mode of mediation style that you use? Like for commercial, it's once the foundation is an agreement, it's always tilted more towards evaluative than facilitative.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you.
Now, so what makes? So I want a practical approach to this question. What makes one a good mediator?
Wow. I think, honestly speaking, in all the many attributes you should have, is patience. I teach my students that in a mediation session, I will only speak 10% and have the party speak 90%. They have not come to hear a lecture. They've not come to listen to me. They've come to listen to each other. And all I'm supposed to just do is help them communicate and arrive at a solution. So patience is key. The ability to keep your mouth shut, remain neutral, and then just sometimes even listen to them. Because in giving them a listening ear, we call that audience therapy. Sometimes they just talk and talk and talk until they just say to them, I'm okay. Let him just tell me what he wants to pay, or let him just tell me what he wants to do, and I want to move on. So that patience, good listening, of course, critical thinking skills, and just basically having empathy for people to find a solution without being judgmental, I think is very key to being a very good mediator. I'll put patience as the key. Patience.
Okay, now, aside from, reading through your profile, I noticed emotional intelligence, for want of a better way to put it. Now, how important is emotional intelligence for a mediator?
Wow.
Because why I ask? Because that is my superpower. That is my superpower. It's not necessarily some of the things I've learned from mediation. My superpower really is emotional intelligence, but it's not a conversation I keep hearing where mediation is concerned, and I'm wondering why. So going through your profile and saying that, yes.
I've picked up a number of trainings neuro-linguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, and rational emotive behavioral therapy. Basically, when disputants come to you with a dispute, their mindset is altered. Their, I mean, I've resigned from my office to start a business. I have a capital of 10 million naira, and that's all my capital in life. I supply the first party goods worth 8.5 million, and then it doesn't pay me. The bills are almost 2 years overdue, and I've taken him to court, and we've been in court for 2 years, and then we'll come to mediation. I mean, that person is really not in a good state. And I think one of the things that mediators don't even realize is that the people you're asking to sit down, tell you their story, and go through the process, you know, their mental state is paramount. You need to understand what they're going through. The settlement in that mediation for them may be a deal breaker. I mean, I've handled a mediation for an 80-year-old widow who had a property that was been in court for about 7 years. And her greatest fear was that I'm going to die, and my only daughter abroad won't be able to pursue the case like I've done. So these people will take my property and live with it. And so when we eventually settled, she knelt down and started crying. You know, same thing with the 30-year-old case I did. When we did the 30-year-old case and they settled, I remember the young boy was about 40. He said something to me. He said, "Mediator, you know what you have done for me. Now I can go on with my life and live." I mean, I can't forget those words. He looked right into my eyes and said it. I've done chieftaincy matters for a king, and the king looked at me and said to me, "I wish I could make you a chief in my palace." You know, so people have serious mental trauma when they are disputes. They're not just having a disagreement with somebody. It weighs on them when they sleep, when they eat, when they are driving. Being in a dispute is a 24-hour thing. So when they come to mediation, emotional intelligence is key, because you want to hold their state of mind. You want to help them to seek clarity. You want to help them to be objective. And you want to help them to take a decision that will not be out of weakness or out of frustration or out of fear or anger. You want to really help them to take an emotionally intelligent decision and put them in a state where they can be open to communicate and then we take a settlement. So emotional intelligence is very key in mediation training, very, very key.
Yeah, which is even a skill set on its own, because the way I see it, mediation is basically about facts. Facts are subsumed in emotions. And the way I like to see mediation is like, if you really want to have a good mediation session, is going to the root cause of that problem. Because you can't keep treating the symptoms without going to the diagnosis of the problem itself, which is always intertwined with a lot of emotions, a lot of things. So there has to be that required skill set that a mediator needs to be able to untangle that web, to know what the actual problem is. So in the same vein, RevDoc, what makes one a good mediation advocate?
Okay. Now, for a good mediation advocate or advisor...
Sorry. Yes, can you please, first of all, can you please differentiate both before answering that question, sir?
Okay. So a mediation advocate is a lawyer who is representing a client in mediation, while a mediation advisor is a non-lawyer representing a party in mediation. So it's just still the same job, but just two different backgrounds. Now, basically, I just tell people when I do those trainings is you're taking your party for a negotiation. And of course, you're not going there to claim damages or all those fantastic things you claim from the court. You're going there to take a realistic decision about the future. No mediator wants to assume the past and what happened or why we are here. He's really concerned about where are we going tomorrow. So in being a good mediation advisor, it's really about helping your partner, your party, for want of using terms, have a good partner. I have 1, 2, 3 scenarios that I think will be something they can live with if they're to settle out of a litigation process. So again, it's about understanding your party, having empathy for them, not just thinking you should hold on to that matter so that you can keep getting your bills paid or they give you appearance fees or whatever. Just basically understanding their party, and then the benefit of being in a room with them as somebody on their side. looking at the issues objectively and telling them realistically, this is the way out. I mean, I've been in mediations where a party is being unrealistic in terms of claims, and the mediation advocate says to me, "Mediator, can you excuse us for a minute?" And then we all go out. When we come back in, we'll settle. That's awesome. But what you have done is that you have done proper reality testing. Yes. I mean, what I can't say, I can't propose solutions. Well, he or she can. So he accelerates the process in assisting, almost like co-mediating, in getting the parties to, give and take, and then win some, lose some, or win-win, whatever it is, expand the pie, and everybody goes away with some kind of some joy.
Thank you. Now, there's another, there's an elephant in the room that came up during our last discussion, but we couldn't do justice to it because of time. And it is a disconnect between the younger mediators and the older mediators, and the concept generally of mediation from a mediator's point of view. And I'll explain further. Chances are that for a regular case, RevDoc, in terms of age, I know even though people say it doesn't matter, but age and experience has a lot to do with a mediator, and people would feel more comfortable going with an older mediator than going with a younger mediator. So the question among younger mediators is this here. So how many years do I need to put in before I'm able to now make a career out of mediation, when even if I have all the experience and I don't look old enough to handle certain cases, I may not be given those cases. So it's a sort of concern for younger mediators, and it always comes up in my discussions with them that, look, I'm starting mediation at the age of 2021. I want to be able to build a career in mediation. I want to be able to make mediation and feed my family. But if I have to get to a particular age in terms to be seen as experienced, how then am I going to make a career out of it? So I would like to really hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I like how Mr. Valentine Bruno says it. He says the mediator must have gravitas so that parties can respect you. Yes, it's true. People want to see you, see your CV, see how mature, how experienced you are. I think it was Mr. Kisoya who was saying once that he was in a mediation and the other party was explaining. I said, I've been at the bar for 38 years. And I was asking more or less, how long have you been at the bar? And he said, I've been at the bar for I think 45 or 47 years. And then the guy sort of submitted. So I can imagine if it was the other way around and that guy was 11 years at the bar, 10 years at the bar. But of course, what you're talking about comes up as an issue. Yes, young mediators, I would say while you grow your wings, like being a young pilot, I think you should look at, have your own niche. Intellectual property is a very green area. Entertainment industry is a very great area. IT is a very great area. ICT mediation, blockchain, artificial intelligence are all young areas. And then even as an advisor to young couples, I mean, Nigeria has, I don't know, 65% or something of the population who are below age 30, I'm told. So you have enough with young couples, young business people who there is absolutely no way the old people can connect with. They can't connect with them.
I like this.
I mean, you go to all the Lekki, Aja area. I can't see an old mediator doing well there. I'm sorry to say, because that's the heart of Lagos, for instance. I mean, these are bubbly young couples, some from Canada, some from England. They've trained in America. I mean, you can't even flow with them. You can't even. I mean, so the old mediators have their own niche, but the young ones have their own niche. So if you're the internal landlord on the island, you're on Instagram, you are the lounges, you are the parties. Of course, your career is off to a wild start. It's really about you being creative and finding your niche. But if you're a 20, 30-year-old mediator, you want to come and sit down LMDC or any institution, I'm not sure you're looking for a good career. You get out there and also.
I get where you're coming from. So another issue I would also want us to discuss. Well, it's been overflowed, but I would really like to hear from your own point of view. Is the antagonistic nature of lawyers to mediation, and in your experience as a mediator, when you see lawyers come in and even though it is clear they try to compound issues and all that, what in your own view do you think? Like, why do you think lawyers act that way?
Okay. Again, like I said, it's all about psychology and emotions. It takes a lot to prepare a brief, Ola. It takes a lot. When you prepare pleadings, you interview the parties, you research the case law, you do interviews, you prepare the statement, witness, and oath. Preparing for litigation is preparing for battle. Now, I don't file that in court, and then you send me to mediation, and I come there smiling.
I like this approach.
Waste of my time. I value my time a lot. It's like waste of my time. So the lawyer comes there and is looking at who is this guy that's going to. Let's go to court. I've prepared my argument. It's solid. It's watertight. Let the judge decide. Why are they sending me here? I think that's one issue for the lawyers. Another issue for the lawyers is mediators kind of, I won't say lack of training, lack of exposure.
Hostility.
Kind of realize that we mediate in the shadow of the law. When there are terms, like you said, in terms of contracts, there are terms. There's been a misrepresentation. There's been a clear breach. And somebody's coming to mediation and is just bluffing, just popping. The mediator has to do a bit of caucusing and bring you to line without being direct. And I think this inability makes the lawyers who are in that process basically they just aspirated that. What is going on here? My client has his rights. Look at a tenancy case, for instance. I've been staying my property for 2 years. I've given you all the due notices. I've sued for recovery, and you are here saying in mediation you want another 18 months before you leave. And the mediator is saying, okay, so what can you give me? So sometimes the lawyers they're disgusted that what this person is saying. So the ability to counsel the counsels and the parties, and then realize that, look, we're not just here to joke. I remember a very funny matter I did. Somebody owed a bank, I think it was 50 million. And for some funny reason, the bank agreed to 10 million full and final. And I thought that was wonderful. Now, we now asked the party, so how do you want to pay? And he said, I want to pay over 5 years. And for me, I'm neutral and independent. I don't care. The bank accepts it, good enough. But something hurt me deeply. So I said to him, why do you think the bank should take the money over 5 years? He said, because it's a mediation, I can ask for anything.
Wow.
Forget it. I looked at the counsel and I said, excuse me, counsel, what did you say? He said, this is mediation, I can ask for anything. I said, no, you can't ask for anything here. You're a counsel. You're bound by the ethics of the profession. Your party should look at their pocket and realistically bring this dispute to an end. And I think the party now sort of looked at me and sort of felt, okay, this counsel is not being ethical. But that was the mindset. So it's really a potpourri of issues. When they say alarming drop of revenue, ADR, and all that, but I don't think it's all about lawyers wanting the money. Yes, they all want the money, but I think basically they want to protect their clients, which they're trained from law school to do and from studying law. And I think also the system looks a bit unfair, especially when it's purely facilitative. They feel, oh, here I am. Somebody borrowed money from my client. He pledged the property. Now he hasn't paid. He doesn't want us to sell the property, and he says he wants to pay over the next 6 years and say that's mediation. So all this confusion sort of makes lawyers not like mediation. So I think it's really about all of us upping our game. And I think every time you do the game properly, the lawyer ends up at the next mediation training. I've had that experience several times. I had an issue with the lawyer, and the first thing was, it was like, I was not properly served. I'm like, sorry, we didn't talk about service here. Next thing was like, I want to look through the agreement to mediate forms, and then the confidentiality forms. And we spent almost 2 hours on that alone, just the forms. And I said, he appears to have been a mediation before. And the client looked at him and said, is it true? That question alone made him go for the next mediation training because he felt, I'll lose this big client. So I think basically, when the process is done properly, lawyers get interested, they get fascinated as to how they can use another process in the toolbox to help their clients settle. I don't think every mediation matter will settle. I keep an open mind. But at least I say to the people, they should leave that process enriched, educated, and better than they came. That's what I strive for. Now, if they settle, that's the icing on the cake. But at least they understand the other party's position better. And I think it's really from the parties, to the counsel, to the mediators, all of us must up our game.
Yeah, but do you think the antagonistic nature could also be tied to the lack of understanding in monetizing mediation as a source of practice? Could that also
Yes,
be a problem? Especially
yes,
when you look at the dynamics involved in mediation and litigation. You know, in litigation, the prowess of an advocate is in court when he addresses the judge. That is the
yes.
superpower. But in
Yeah, the joy, yeah.
mediation, yeah, but in mediation is
It's
pre-session.
quiet.
Yes, the client, and it's always before the session. So that inconsistency could also be a
Yes.
reason why lawyers,
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
lawyers struggle
Yes.
with
I had an
mediation.
online mediation once, and the lawyer called me and said, "I'm very sorry. Can we have an in-person mediation?" I'm like, "No, I want it online. Why? What's the point?" He said, "Because my client won't pay me a kobo if we do it online.
Hmm.
It looks too easy and too simple." So I said, "No, don't worry. I understand your position. Just leave it there." So I made sure that I involved him in the exploration, in the reality testing. I made him have time with his client to discuss the issues and consider the
Hmm.
proposals. And most importantly, I made him, prepare the more or less draft the terms. I made the counsels prepare the terms so that they could get a good bill from their client. And they really appreciated it. They were like, "Oh, if every mediator could be like this, we'll all take part in the process." But I think you trying to shut the counsel out of the the process and face the parties alone, kind of again, it's lack of emotional intelligence. They're not managing the process
Exactly,
properly.
emotional intelligence. Yeah.
So it makes the lawyer just fold his arms and say, "Go ahead and let me see how my party will settle." Once you're done, you tell the client, "Don't listen to that guy. We'll win in court, and we'll truncate it." But if you do it properly, the parties will even go and meet after the mediation and come back to you with the draft terms if you do it properly. So the counsels should not be alienated. They must be accepted, acknowledged, and most importantly, empowered to take part in the process. That's the only way we can kill that antagonism.
Yeah, and on the lighter note, RevDoc, I'm looking for that person. I don't know if you know him, or so that I can go and arrest him. That started this rumor about mediation not being binding. Please, where did that start from?
I
I
I
don't.
I
Please, I'm looking for that person,
I
RevDoc.
I, I hear that in opening statements, and what does that mean?
Exactly.
Mediation is voluntary and non-binding. I think once you sign, I think it's voluntary to the point before you sign the agreement to mediate. Once
Yes,
you
but
sign
the
the agreement,
non-binding is what I don't
it's
understand.
no longer voluntary. Now you've submitted, and then when you say non-binding, I've started to understand what that could mean. Maybe
I'm
I don't have
I,
given
I'm
enough
I'm
knowledge.
also trying to understand what it means because it's what they say. They say mediation is non-binding, and I'm asking
Yeah.
why they say non-binding. How? Where? So I don't. So if there's anyone listening to us right now, well, maybe we should try and get into the minds of consumers and understand what they mean when they say mediation is non-binding. So please
Yeah.
feel free to join in the conversation through the
Yeah.
comment section and all that. Yeah, there's a comment. There's a comment from Mr. Adebayo. He said it lightheartedly. He said he hopes the transformative will not throw mediators out of job. Then Dari also commented by saying that he was thinking the same too. So I don't get the joke. So how the
Okay,
trans
okay.
okay.
Okay, yeah. Well, no, I think what they mean is that what I said, it empowers the party to go out and practice mediation. Well, it's just to an extent. They can't really take on full mediation practice. But basically, what it means is that you change their mindset. They
Okay.
realize that it's not always life is not always binary. Most of us, I think I've heard you say that at many of your trainings, Fola. Most of us want the decision handed down to us. Who is right and who is
Yes.
wrong? And that's really what transformative mediation does. That sometimes nobody is right, nobody is
Hmm.
wrong, nobody is liable, nobody is in breach, but we settle. That's the beauty of transformative mediation. That we can both agree to disagree, that we are going to agree to go forward.
So,
And I
but
think that's what
yeah,
them
but the
go
funny
back
thing there is this
and
here. From the top of my head, just thinking out loud, I've not been able to ruminate on it clearly on this concept of transformative mediation, where parties determine what is right or what is wrong. More or less, is that what you're saying, sir? So that means that if on the face of
yes,
it,
the parties,
I don't see a sense of justice in it, but because the parties have agreed, then that is what it ought to be.
yeah,
But Rev Doc,
yes.
don't you think
There's no sense
then
of fairness, no sense of fairness in mediation.
If there's no sense of fairness, then where's justice?
When you talk of, yeah, and that's why I say that counsels have a problem with it. When you talk of being impartial and independent, it comes from the old court magazine of acting as a counsel without affection or ill will. So I'm in caucus with a party, and it tells me, today I'll pay 10 million naira. If he takes 10 million naira, I'll pay him. And then we'll come back to the plenary. And I go, well, it appears that parties are now ready to exchange offers, claimant or disputant or whoever, what would we like to pay today? And he says, I'm willing to pay 4 million. And the other party says, how soon can you pay it? And then they sign terms. Now I look at the other guy and I'm like, well, you told me 10. But he said, I thought I'm going to start with 4 or 3. And since they accepted it, off they go. Now, I can't go back and tell the person, come on, increase it a bit. It's not right that you're taking from 20 million down to 3 million. No. That's not your job as a mediator. So there's no sense of fairness in terms of you getting involved in the process. Yes, you may get to might not be able to eat your dinner, but then that's what comes to the territory. The parties discuss, they negotiate, and they agree on their terms. You're basically a facilitator. You're a catalyst. You don't form part of the end product, because when it comes to enforcement, you won't be there, and they can't even call you as a witness. So you really must switch off that judgmental attitude. Again, emotional intelligence. You must be self-managed. You must not get vested. So a woman says, I want to have full custody of my children, and the husband says, if you have full custody, I won't pay a couple for the school fees. And he says, no problem. I'll pay their fees myself. I can afford it. No, and all those kind of games that we see in the mediation room, you just basically keep them talking and bring them to kind of settlement. You don't get involved. You don't tilt to one side. That's the profession. So it sounds very cold, but then
So there's a comment by from Venerable, and because it's as if he even echoed my mind. I was actually going to expand the narrative, but let me start off on the premise. He said, can we actually say that there is no fairness in mediation? So I don't. May I just unmute Venerable to shed more light on that, especially vis-a-vis this concept of transformative mediation. I in a way I kind of struggle with it, but Venerable, maybe you should go first. Venerable, please, can you expand this narrative a bit?
Hi.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
My Venerable, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, man, thank you.
Okay. I've been listening to you with all rapt attention. I've been enjoying all you're saying.
Thank you very much.
I never expected for her to tell me to make comments. Just want to listen.
Let's talk about fairness.
These days, also this I hear a lot of things. I think I'm soaking a lot in. But I just asked that question because can we actually say that there's no fairness in mediation? Is that what we are saying? That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, I said, I don't agree. Who am I to say what is fair? I remember a matter I did. I mean, I still think about it. A guy was married for 37 years, and when he died, he had about 4 properties. He vested his matrimonial home, where he lived with his wife and kids, to his daughter he had out of wedlock, and left all the titles to her. And and of course, the wife at home went to court and believed that she had every right to hold a matrimonial home, and she had all the legal backings. But after mediation, they agreed that that matrimonial home would be evacuated and given to that girl, and then they would take the houses in other jurisdictions and other. Anyway, we settled it. But that girl got the house, the matrimonial house, big house, about 7 bedrooms in Ikoyi or somewhere. I just sort of struggled with it and said, would the court ever have come to that kind of decision to throw a woman and her kids out of their home? But then that's what they agreed. And the woman was happy. She was crying, but she signed the terms. So basically, was it fair to her? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Like the man that died, that vested in the daughter, wrote a will or something like that.
Yeah.
Based on that will, even if the woman goes to court, at the end of the day, there's a will. And so long as all the ingredients of will are in there, you cannot vitiate that. But the point I'm making is that when we say there's no fairness, I've had a lot of matters. I mean, I mean, I've seen worse than that one you just mentioned now. But let's give a scenario, right? You know, a pensioner, a widow, right? And she has only one property, right? And then that's what she eats on every day. I mean, every month. Her pension is not being paid by government, so she relies on just this 4-bedroom apartment that she respects. And you now have 2 of the tenants. You refuse to pay for 2 years, right? And by the time they bring it to mediation, the guy tells you, listen, okay, I'll pack out, but I don't have any money to pay, right? And what will you do in that instance? Will you just fine? You're right, just pack your things and go. Meanwhile, the house has been totally, extremely destroyed. That the widow who has no income will need to fix that house. Will you as a mediator just say, fine, since you can't fix, since you are moving out, bye-bye. And I'm just wondering, because mediators have conscience, so they're not robots.
Yes, that's why I say that
allow a widow, a poor widow, looking at her like this at the mediation table, that you know that this woman is being totally cheated. I mean, she's been taken advantage of, and just say, man, that's it, and just shrug your finger, your shoulder, and say bye bye.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering.
I agree with you. I was talking to clients.
People say about 100 starts of mediation. I've had 105. I don't know. I've not seen 105, but I've had 105. Right.
You know,
the question therefore would you just say, okay, let's close it. Let the woman accept it like that way and just move on.
Move on. Yeah. That's it. The judiciary, you know, have to work with mediation, to support mediation. Those kind of inherent failures in the judiciary make such scenarios possible. You know, I was talking to a client in the UK about 2 weeks ago who had a client who was paying him £1,000 a month in a property, now staying for a year and a half, you know, in default. And he went to the house, packed the guy's property out, changed the locks. And when they went to court, the court fined him £500 for legal cost, and £300 to the client for his goods. But he said he didn't mind because that was £800 and he had his house back. So this, if he had go to Nigeria to court, it'd be gone for 7 years, the house will be locked up. So basically, the fear of the non-working legal system makes people come to mediation and accept all these kind of settlements. So the widow says to the tenant who owes 2 years, just leave next month or leave in 2 months' time and take the money away, so that she can reboot and restart with a fresh tenant and hope that they will do better next time. Or someone has taken your money as deposit for a land to give you an estate, taking 10 million from you for 8-9 years, and now he says, okay, the estate materialized, I will give you back your 10 million over the next 3 years at 150,000 a month or some funny thing. I see all these kind of things, but you see, sometimes for the parties, it's the best alternative to, you know, a protracted litigation. So again, this is where I said at the beginning, to follow policy, you know, even in the case of summary judgments, you know, we don't use summary judgments in Nigeria. When the contract is clear as to terms for what should be done, you file for summary judgment, it goes to trial. It shouldn't go to trial. So all this failure of the judicial system makes parties come to mediation and accept basically just anything. And like you said, if you have a conscience, you go home and you feel, you know, you're kind of worried or bad. But I don't think really fairness is subjective. If that person feels that it's a good deal for him, fine.
I agree with you. I agree, right? Yeah. What I'm saying is that the woman that I mentioned really wanted that money. And
wanted money.
Wanted that money. And the guy said, sorry, I'm moving out. I don't have a cover to pay you. But
you have to decide, do I let him stay here and go back to court for the next 5 years? Or do I let him go next month, take that money, and then possibly in another 2 months' time have a new tenant? So that decision they have to
But it was fine because the guy moved out. They didn't have a house. But like Larry said, they signed the terms for him to move out, and then he didn't pay whatever. But as a mediator, you see a poor lady crying in front of you.
Crying, yeah. your heart just breaks.
One truth is that I got into mediation years back because I served as a court clerk in the court of Nuruddin Kensington. It was from him that I learned. Listen, let's solve matters quickly. Just matter of all this long story will not help us. But I'm just trying to see how can we help clients? Because when somebody comes before you and says at mediation, I can ask for anything. I can ask for anything. That negates the essence of mediation. Mediation is not there to create an injustice. It's for both parties to be fair, for both parties to leave the table feeling happy. It's not that one side you feel I've taken it all, and the other guy goes back and feels very unhappy. Both sides should leave that table happy and glad that it came from. So next time they'll be willing. Right, but the time you make one feel as if, wow, this guy has really taken me to the cleaners. That's, in my own opinion, we should not, as militants, want to encourage it. Right? We cannot enforce anything, we can't change anything, but at least we should be able to at least help people to understand that be fair in your deals. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I agree with you. People are basically signing agreements under duress, more or less, really.
So RevDoc, I'm going to take Darius' comment and ask one question. Darius, you were going to say something. Your hand was up.
Okay, so my question was really going to take us out of this train of thought already.
Okay, so can you just please hold on then? Let me just finish this trail of thought, and I'll get back to you. Now, RevDoc, one of the reasons why, one of the things I struggle with, and with this line of thought, and I don't know whether you can just put things in proper perspective, is this. Now, we know the bedrock of mediation is the fact that it is party-driven, but we also cannot isolate the power dynamics in any mediation session. There's always that dominant personality. There's always that recessive personality. So when in the spirit of parties agreeing, that party is more or less wanting to impose his or her decision on the other party, and the other party now, okay, fine, as a result of being submissive, now agrees and they enter into it. And as a mediator, we are saying because both of them have quote and unquote agreed under the principle of transformative mediation. Because really and truly, if both parties agree to something, then what they agree to ought to be so. So my concern is this, and this is where it ties into the analogy you gave about one lawyer saying that they can ask for anything for mediation. There is still the concept of fairness. There is still the concept of what is right and what is wrong, whichever way we want to look at it from. There's that concept. So how then does this now marry into the fundamental principle of justice? There has to be justice, because there's a reason why that lady holds two things and is standing like this. So I'm really struggling with the concept of transformative justice, the concept of fairness, and the concept of equity as far as mediation is concerned.
I agree with you. A client would possibly get a better deal on the court steps, on the steps of the court before trial than in a mediation room. Probably get a better deal, because in that mediation room, people sort of feel, oh, I'm drinking coffee, I'm relaxed, I can ask for anything. But you see, as a mediator, you need to have the ethical part of your training. I mean, I remember a matter I did. It was a petrol station and a supplier, and he had defaulted about 20 million thereabouts. And the station was ready to refinance and extend the loan and everything, but it was pushing the envelope for a write-off, pushing the envelope. And when I saw that it wasn't agreeable with me, I recused myself from the matter. I simply dropped the case. I dropped the file. I said, I won't be a part of this. So it's about your personal ethics. I've done a good job, and if you're going to push the envelope this far, then let someone else finish it up. So that's on one hand. As a mediator, I don't think I have to finish a matter where there's going to be illegality. I won't take part in that. Now, the second thing is also for the counsel that come to mediation to be known that even though it's a discussion or is a voluntary or non-binding, all these processes you're calling it, it's still in the shadow of the law. It's still the settlement should still be a contract that is not unconscionable. You shouldn't end up with fraud or illegality. So I think that many lawyers now who come to mediation and they say, oh, this is very, I would say, Oyibo process. So they come back and they come and say, look, don't agree. Tell them you can't pay. Tell them you leave. And it's almost becoming like a textbook open and close matter. The tenant comes and says, I'll leave in 3 months, but I can't pay a kobo. The landlord weighs his option and says, okay, no problem. There are very few houses in the environment. I know people will come and take the property quickly, and then they say, okay, just leave in 3 months. And so it's sort of is like you said, it's not just, it's not fair. Again, it's about our society. The mediators, the parties, the counsel, they're all from one environment. They're all from one environment.
Okay,
and,
so
and that's where it helps.
Okay, so the final question.
I think I remember. Yeah, let me quickly add this. I did a mediation in the UK, and I remember it was 2 Nigerians. The Nigerian came from Nigeria to mediate with the other party. The wife was in the UK. It was beautiful for me because when the Nigerian lawyer and the Nigerian man opened up in the mediation and were making all demands, the counsel on the other side kept saying, that won't fly in family court. Have you read the rules? You know, I was so happy. Almost everything they said was like, are you kidding me? Have you read the family court rules? Have you read the directions? I think we should take an adjournment and let the other counsel go and read it. And I'm like, wow. So somebody now said to them, so basically telling that lawyer that you can't come here and just ask for anything. That's what the society agrees as to how a family should be treated, how a woman should be treated after marriage, how the children should be taken care of, what role the state plays. So it was such an eye-opener for me that, oh, wow. So you can't just come here and say, I will keep the children, I want to divide the children, you can take the boy, I'll take the girl, all the kind of things we see in this jurisdiction. So I think it's all a product of our society. We all need to up our game.
Okay, then. One final question on this line of thoughts before I hand over to Dare. Mr. Sage says that can a mediator assist in an unfair terms of settlement?
Simply no. No.
Wow.
No.
Why?
For me, it's either, I have to sign the terms, it's either I recruit myself or I go back into serious reality testing. Like I told you, the one with the banker. The bankers were made a good concession, and the other party was saying, I'll pay your money over 5 years. And that was ridiculous. And meanwhile, the bank had the property. They had the full title. They had even registered it. They could sell the house at the tip of a finger. But they're just trying to respect the client and respect the defaulting party for old time's sake, and help them to penetrate that particular market segment. So eventually, through questioning, through talking about the process, through talking about expectations, I got the counsel to come around and now say we'll pay in 2 years. And the bank, of course, agreed, and they signed and they left. And the counsel, just out of the blue, said to me, I'm sorry for what I said. Because I think it came out of his mind from deep in his heart when he said, this is a mediation I can ask for anything. It was the mindset. But without judging him, without being harsh or responsive, in just going back to the process again, going back again to private meetings, just doing it by the textbook, we came to realize that even though we're in the mediation arena, we should still be conscionable in decisions and proposals we are making. And so I think it's again, upping our game. The advocates, everybody needs to just basically improve ourselves. We can't stop improving ourselves.
Yeah, but within the analogy of what you explained, evaluative at least gives the opportunity for you to descend into the arena. So yes, within that framework, don't you think a mediator can at least give some insight into an unfair settlement, since there are so many styles now?
Fola, from law, no institution will allow, in a private mediation you can go evaluative, but no institution will allow evaluative for the simple reason that being evaluative is going to be subjective. I mean, from where I'm coming from and my experience and what I think is fair. So basically, if any institution allows for evaluative mediation, they'll be run down. There will be a flood of petitions, there'll be a walk away.
Even in caucus? Even in caucus, no. I'm not sure from FIAC to KIAC, I'm not sure of any institution that allows for evaluative, except maybe in India. In India, most of the mediators are judges, or they're from the judiciary. There are very few lawyers or non-judicial mediators. It's just now that it's growing a bit.
the bulk of their lawyers. So they tend to bring that judge mindset and gravitas. I mean, you're appearing before justice also as a mediator. So the lawyers behave themselves. So some are even serving judges. The parties behave themselves, and so you can't tell a judge some kind of insult offer that we find here. So I think again it's the gravitas. I think again.
Thank you so much, RevDoc. I'll let Darius speak. Though this topic of mediation and the concept of justice is going to be another symposium discussion. Because it has your explanation has opened, has brought up more questions than answers for me. So I don't want us to spend too much time on it. Darius, so you were going to ask a question. Over to you.
I'm living this hot afternoon seats with a lot of questions in my mind.
In fact, you're not the only one. It has opened up more.
That I need answers to.
Too many questions I need answers to. In fact, I'm sure because when we started off this, the last time we started, the antagonistic nature of lawyers went on and on. And so I'm sure the next 3 sessions we're going to have this mediation and the concept of justice, vis-a-vis what you have said. But it's all good. Darry, over to you, please. You're going to say something.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Yes, sir.
Okay. I agree with Mr. Oluwafemi. Even right now, I'm even bothered about the question I'm going to ask, so I do not raise more questions. Honestly. So I'll just say one thing. I'll say 2 things real quick, just based on the last thing that Doc said about the Indian situation, which I'll say the question, but I'll leave it for another day or for us to ponder on. So if in India, a lot of their mediators are experienced judges, that a good thing for mediation or a bad thing for mediation? But I'm just asking and leaving it there. We can treat it next time. The next thing I'm going to point out was, I've heard you a couple of times mention online dispute resolution. I just want your take on the possibility of online dispute resolution with regards to mediation and our system. Is this something that you feel has come to stay and it will get better in this our system, ODR?
Okay. Let me speak about the judges in India. I have a partner there, Samir Sher, is director of the CIAB in India. It's from the new body called ADR OC. I'm also on the board of advisors of Mediate Guru, all of them trying to see how they can enhance private participation of lawyers and quality surveyors, architects, engineers in mediation, as opposed to the judiciary. Because even the concept of having a serving judge as your mediator is frightening. Because today you may be saying, you're talking to him as a mediator, and then tomorrow you're appearing before him in court as a litigator. So I think that whole thing is very foreign. But I think again, it's all part of the evolution of the justice system. So it's an aberration, really. Anyway, anybody can be a mediator, but I mean, I think they will change that. Now for ODR basically is here to stay because I think post-COVID is a new normal. Now, I always like to tell people that there are 2 things. There's online dispute resolution, which in my own submission hasn't come to Nigeria yet. eBay, for instance, eBay has 16 million disputes a year. No judicial system can handle that. Amazon has about 13 million disputes a year. No judicial. So basically, they have smart settle, they have smart bargain. There's so many softwares that without any human interaction, you just put your offer in, the other party puts a counter offer, and they both agree, and it prints out the receipt, and off it goes. So that is online dispute resolution. It's using artificial intelligence, it's using Watson, and it looks at the type of settlements, it looks at, and they're using it a lot in Dubai and some countries for strict liability crimes, like when you have dangerous driving, other intoxication, all of that, trying to really speed up the system. So that's online dispute resolution. But doing mediation online is what I think you mean. Using platforms, virtual platforms, WhatsApp, WebEx, Zoom, etc. I think for common sense, I mean, I read somewhere last week, I'm going to close a code bridge for the next 10 weeks. That's one of the major bridges in Lagos. So if I have to do a mediation with a party in Chevron or somewhere later from, and I'm not going to get into Uber and go on a 4-hour trip to and fro, mediate, and I want to be in the right frame of mind. So it only makes sense that we meet. I had a mediation about 2 weeks ago. I had a party from Togo, one from Ghana, one from London, one from the US, and a few from Nigeria, some from Port Harcourt, and we're about 16 parties. With a very big advertising mediation, and that was only possible because we were all locked on online, and they settled. Now that could have been impossible in a physical mediation. They have to fly in, they have to pay hotel bills, pay their lawyer. It would have been chaotic. So we needed a witness or needed somebody to talk to us. We call him on phone, send him the link, he joins the discussion. And that was how we expanded and we resolved the matter. So it's a smart way to go. It's the way that makes sense. And I think if the executive, ECOWAS, United Nations, I'm not sure United Nations will sit again as an assembly, but they're all enjoying sitting from their countries and taking decisions without coming to New York. So I think if everybody is going online, I think we should also take our practice online. But to the extent that parties can understand the process and still participate fully.
Okay, then. Doctor. Thank you so much. So, Venerable, in coming back to the reason why we do what we do, I'm going to ask this question. In terms of building a profitable mediation practice, one that ensures that either a mediator or an advisor or an advocate is well remunerated, what strategies can you share that has helped you in your own mediation practice?
Okay, again, I'll first of all say I'll plead the Second Amendment. I will not incriminate myself or share my secrets, but I'll give you a few tips. For everything in life is about value. A party called me last week and said, look, I have a mediation, it's a construction mediation. I said, how much is the amount in dispute? Wanted to basically have a rough idea what I would charge. And he said it was about 1.3 billion naira. And he said, what will you charge? I said, just give me something small, very, very small. 0.00000% of what you're. And he said, why so small? I said, because I've seen that it's a pure contractual matter, and I don't think it should take one or 2 or 3 sessions. So I won't be doing much work. It's not a complex matter. And he was happy. He started thanking me. He said, I thought you would charge me 40 million or 20 million. I said, no. It's an open and closed matter. I can almost resolve it on the phone. From what you have told me, and I've seen I've seen both sides pleadings. So if you go to mediation that way, that kind of person is likely to reappoint me next time, because I didn't hear the amount in dispute. I want to charge him 100 million. So it's about value. I work a lot with foreign mediators. It's all about time. If I'm doing a family mediation for 1 hour, even if they are Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, I should charge something reasonable. I shouldn't say I'm doing a $15 billion marriage dissolution settlement, as I want to charge them $100 million of my fees. No. So it's about value. Before you bill a client, what value are you adding to that client? You charge on based on, it happens a lot here. You call an MC for a show, you say I'm taking 1.5 million. I'm like, you talk for 8 minutes, say yes, 8 minutes is money. That's my worth. I'm an influencer, all sort of funny things. It's all about value. So I found that in the Western world, people charge based on value, not based on sentiment. So I think you will build a good practice if you are honest, if you are transparent, if you are diligent, if you are forthright, and if you deliver value to your clients, you will get more appointments. But if you want to make a kill from the first client who comes your way, that may be your first and last kill.
Okay, thank you so much. We have Mrs. Oshoke's hands up. Mrs. Oshoke, kindly unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Fola. Following from RevDoc's last statement, I want to believe that we may not be able to go that way when it comes to institutional mediation. And when I say institutional, I mean mediations that are facilitated by institutions. Let's say, for instance, the ICC is facilitating a mediation. When it comes to the fees, it is the institution that sorts out all that fees. And you know that most of these institutions, they work by percentage. Yes, some do per hour, but some of them go by percentage. So the person that is saying that you're charging too little is probably comparing the prices to what the institutions would charge. So we may be shooting ourselves in the foot when we say, okay, we're charging so little because we feel that we're not spending too much time on it. And you see, at the end of the day, a lot of people may actually now begin to run away from institutional mediation and running towards maybe ad hoc mediation because they feel that they get, they're able to get away with paying peanuts. If I may say so, from them. So I think we as mediators, as much as we don't want to, we want to be humane and all that, I don't think we should shoot ourselves in the foot by charging too little. We should always, try and balance it out, in terms of what an institution would charge, and maybe something slightly lower or a bit lower, but not something just entirely low rock bottom, even if it is the first mediation that you're doing. That's just my take.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, YBO. But for instance, the Charity Arbitrators Code of Ethics says that if you're going to charge as an ad hoc person, make sure that you charge based on the complexity, the nature, the amount of disputes, etc. Basically, quantum of work done. So I think just like lawyers charge, just like doctors charge, it's just about value. I do agree with you. But
yes,
most institutions have their scale of fees and you can't touch that, so that's fine.
If I was even going to look at it from another point of view, because I see mediation as a business, and I hold the implicit belief that mediation as an alternative to arbitration should not be because it is cheaper. But I hold that implicit belief. Yes. Yes, you see, so that's the point. And if we look at the whole, because people have this misconceived notion that mediation is cheap. So because it is cheap, and there's this mindset of mindset people ascribe to mediation because it is cheap, they believe it does not have value. So I'm thinking that if mediation can be elevated to that level where, okay, fine, the alternative would necessarily come from the angle of it being faster, maintaining business relationships amongst all, I think it will actually take it up, as opposed to it being seen as a poorer cousin of arbitration. And maybe, just maybe, it might even endear more practitioners to it, because it takes a certain level of expertise to be able to make money out of mediation. But I don't know whether you would like to speak more to that, RevDoc.
Yeah, I always look at cost and value. If you look at the cost of mediation or the cost of arbitration, and you want to gauge their strengths based on the cost, it will be an unfair judgment. The value of an arbitral award is such that it is still binary. I think that to go and enforce it, recognize it, and the party may not be happy with the decision, it may challenge it, or that will set aside. Unlike a mediated settlement agreement, where you have almost 85 to 90% compliance. So it is more valuable. It addresses the needs. It brings in the real parties. Arbitration, the parties don't speak. And so somebody said mediation gives you true justice. It brings you really get, you get to say, even if it's just getting to say your mind, as opposed to your lawyer speaking for you. So all of that, really, yes, people may not appreciate that they want to pay large sums for it. Even on the ICC scale, mediation is much, much lower than arbitration on every scale I know. And I don't think it's really because they think mediation is a poor cousin of arbitration. I think they just, again, look at the intrinsic value as to what it provides. And so you as a practitioner have to get a bit more creative in billing clients, in making sure that you give them a process that they think that you would deserve the fees that you are charging them. And again, if the civil justice is what is foiling mediation, you know that the civil justice is almost free. The major cost is your legal cost. So if you want to compare the civil justice to the mediations, then you can understand where you're coming from, because many people tend to look at it vis-a-vis arbitration. No, look at it vis-a-vis litigation. It won't cost me an arm and a leg to prosecute a matter in court. If you ever have a good lawyer who is doing pro bono or is supporting me. So vis-a-vis that. So I think let's not look at the cost, let's look at the value and keep promoting the fact that mediation is valuable because it builds relationship, it helps people to move on in the future, it gives them a good start and all the good things that it does. And I think that you will find that eventually to take its rightful place. I know that, for instance, in SIAC, they have amended it started as the Singapore International Arbitration Center, but now it's really, first of all, they had the Singapore International Mediation Center, but they more or less match the two now. But they realize that people want to mediate, then arbitrate, then mediate, or arbitrate, then mediate. It's basically 2 in 1. So they now offer it as a dual process. And even on the other LCA scheme, we're looking also at MedAb, MedAb rules and how they can work together, not against each other. So ultimately, I think that litigation will end up with mediation because the judgment will always make somebody happy, another person unhappy. Arbitration will end up with mediation, and only mediation will not end up with mediation. So I think to that extent, there's money to be made. There's good money to be made.
So thank you so much. I have a very controversial question to ask, and you can choose to plead the fifth on it. Now, based on the interviews I've had with quite a number of mediators here, the mindset of an undiluted mediator is different from the mindset of a mediator that is an arbitrator. That is the first premise. So the question I would ask is this: is it possible for an individual to be a good mediator and a good arbitrator at the same time?
Well, without sounding immodest, I think I bring all my arbitration skills. I prefer arbitration to mediation. Well, that's just...
It's so obvious, Ben.
Many people don't believe that.
It's so obvious. I see it. So, and that's why I'm struggling with a lot of some of the things you have said. That has raised a lot of questions for me. Why?
Because there are issues to be determined, and I apply facts, and I find the facts, I hold the law, and I give an award. So it's straightforward. Anyway, leave that aside. The beauty of arbitration is that it helps you to clarify what do the parties want. I mean, in an uncanny way, because of the way the process is structured, you have to give the parties exactly what they're asking for. The claims and the counterclaims are all that you deal with. And to that extent, if you bring that mindset to mediation, you sort of narrow down the issues so that parties are not just talking and ventilating. At the end of the day, you're having adjournments and you don't even know where you are going. So more or less, a good arbitrator will have started drafting in his mind a sort of mock settlement. And you find that if you have a very good counsel, the process becomes really straightforward. And I think if you're talking about fairness in mediation, an arbitrator who is very strong on ethics in terms of equal treatment, being even-handed, and giving parties a full opportunity to present their case, if you bring those ethics to mediation, you will get a better process, a better quality process. So I'm happy that these two processes are being collapsed into one in most foreign institutions. I'm a fellow of several foreign institutions, and they will tell you at the time you come on their panel that when you are appointed to a matter, the first thing you should do is ask the parties if they want to mediate. And should they want to mediate, you go ahead and do a consent award. And I think to that extent, many arbitrators find that the mediation is not a rival. It's all part of the ADR toolbox, especially for commercial matters. And that's why you find that the New York Convention is now also not giving way, but being supported by the Singapore Convention, so that these two processes can rise together and give disputants, more choices, especially in cross-border dispute resolution.
I agree with you, and I'm also looking at a scenario where, in the not too distant future, as mediation starts taking its pride of place, maybe a scenario like what is happening in the UK, where you can train to either be a solicitor or yes, because there is a certain mindset that is ascribed to the principle of mediation, that one and the war gamut is in the flexibility. Because now, if you look at arbitration, I really don't know so much about it, but based on technicality, a party can have an upper hand.
Yes,
because a party can have an upper hand, and let's not forget. Okay.
In fact, I'm publishing an article. It should be out maybe next week on the role of of arbitrators as acting as amiable compositors or giving the powers of es acque bono, which is what people don't really understand in our jurisdiction. So when you give an arbitrator that power, it means that you're allowing him to decide the merits of the case, not only based on the substantive law, but on what is just and fair. Sort of imagine the old, in England, you had the courts of equity and the courts of justice. And so basically giving him that power to deal on what is fair and equitable. So I think to that extent, arbitration is not very flexible, except to give those powers which parties don't even know about, not about granting. But mediation, it makes it pie. It's awesome.
It's interesting, at least. On a lighter note, I was actually running out of materials and contents to ask, but this video alone, I'm sure by the time I sit back and watch it again, I'm going to because I was actually running out of contents to be true. But you see what this video has done to me. This session has raised so many questions. So I can only shake my head for the next mediator we're going to have on the hot seat. So I can only shake my head. So moving right along, yes, we're going to take two final questions before we call it a night. And now, if we look at what has happened in the last 1 year, we've had COVID, we've had MSAS, now we're having the strike, and the Juson strike now. All these all these incidents that have happened, do you see them as an accelerant or an inhibitor for the growth of mediation?
On a common sense note, they should basically accelerates not only mediation, but ADR as a whole. But I find that, parties believe so much in their clients. I find parties being advised by their clients that don't worry, let's wait until the strike is over. I might say, look, let's explore mediation. No, don't do mediation. Let's wait until, because of, whatever interest that people have. So all over the world, in fact, there's an article I just curated yesterday from the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies in the UK. They sent it to me yesterday. The Future of Courts was delivered by, I think, Lord Belmarsh. And I can't wait to listen to that article, because basically they're saying that the courts in the UK post-COVID may become like monuments and nobody's going to be filing matters in court. So if jurisdictions are looking out of how they can expand or adapt the civil justice system, and even here, we hear noise, let's say noise, in the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, that parties should explore alternative dispute resolution. I say noise because we don't see anything concrete on ground. So basically, yes, again, it comes back to what I said at the beginning, policy direction. The government wants to increase ease of doing business, access to justice. Fola and Shola cannot drive that. That could be the government. Even the bill, the company, almost all our laws in Nigeria, from the company and allied matters to the banking and financial matters to the Insurance Act, all have mediation embedded in them. That's the process. But nobody enforces it. Everybody goes to court. And the civil justice, we know, is inefficient. So yes, all of us have to change our mindset. All of us have to start looking at the ADR toolbox. Some matters just need an early neutral evaluation. Some matters just need somebody to help them talk through. Some matters need an arbitration. Different people have different solutions. But the bottom line is we all need to look at our old civil justice system, because we won't unlock the property, the real estate, the finance sector if we don't have good commercial adjudication. Because I know many people will not put a kobo into rental property because of the obvious fact that when the tenant come in there and pays the first 3 years, that's the end. You're not getting a kobo from him anymore. So basically, even the mortgage system, even the bank lending, even the credit cards, it's all because of a failure of our civil justice system. The criminal justice is collapsed. Let's not even talk about that. But the civil justice it's in our hands as practitioners, as lawyers, as judiciary. And so I think it's conversations we should have. The NBA, everybody. I think that's the way forward.
Thank you so much. So the very final question, we have a cross-section of seasoned mediators, we have young mediators, we have people wanting to start off a career in the business and practice of mediation. So what advice do you have for those that want to take up a career in mediation as a mediator and a mediation advocate? Those will be the final words.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I'll just say keep Seek experience first before money, or seek a good name before fame. In the ADR community, it's a very small community. You need to volunteer, you need to serve, you need to improve yourself, attend courses, attend webinars, attend lectures, attend trainings, equip yourself properly so that when you get into the room, you just wow them, and then from there, you're just on a roll. So basically, I'll just say, everything you give time to and attention to grows. Relationships, your personal life, everything. So I think just give time to it. Take it as a long haul journey. Slow and steady, but just keep every year, every month, add some value to yourself. Read articles, read books. Improve yourself. Attend lectures, network. Join institutes, join societies. And make sure that you basically, at the end of the day, you're out there. People see you. They know what you stand for. And I'm sure one day your time in the sun will come.
Thank you so much, RevDoc. And I also want to thank you for
very
taking
much,
time out of your very busy schedule to join us. I want to thank the participants. In fact, anyway, our members of my team, please take time out to watch this video again. And please let me have all the questions, because we are still going to deliberate this. Then this next month is going to be a bit different. We're not having any mediator on the hot seat. We're going to be looking at we're going to be having more of mock mediation sessions. We're going to be using live scenario cases. Of course, we'll change the identities of the people involved. We are going to be having live mediators that would handle a mock sessions, because we've noticed that quite a lot of people don't even understand the dynamics of mediation. They don't see mediation real time because of the confidentiality ascribed to mediation. So we're going to be having live mediation cases, people acting the way they should act in mediation, and once we finish, we'll take comments, we'll take feedback on how the mediator acted, on the parties, what they noticed, what they felt the mediator should have done, among so many other things. It's going to be pretty interesting. We intend to run that throughout the month of June, and we'll continue with our session in July. So thank you everyone for tuning in. It's been an interesting session. Dr. Agbelusi, the table breaker. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone, and have a lovely. And the recording is going to be on YouTube. You can follow us on our YouTube channel at Fortify Mediation Academy for this interview and the ones we've had in the past. And I wish everyone a lovely weekend. God bless you all. Thank you. Bye.